Andy? Andy?
Hi, Boyd.
Yeah. The boy's down. He's working. Who's working? The dog.
The Forgotten Faces of Mayberry. In the first part of this story, we remembered the giants: Andy, Don, Francis. The names etched in every rerun, every whistle of the theme song. But Mayberry was more than its main cast. It was a town populated by barbers, clerks, drunks, preachers, mayors, and misfits. And the people who played them gave just as much, only to fade into the edges of memory. They weren't on every episode. Some only had a handful of scenes. But without them, Mayberry wouldn't have felt real. It's easy to forget the man who fixed the radios, or the mayor who shook Andy's hand, or the woman who walked across a single frame with quiet purpose. But they were all part of the illusion, an illusion built with real human lives. This second part is for them. The ones who didn't make the DVD covers or fan conventions. The ones who didn't get Lifetime Achievement Awards or magazine retrospectives. The ones who gave everything they had to a role that history barely kept. Denver Pyle, Howard Morris, Harley Bear, Dick Elliot, Jack Dodson, Paul Hartman, Anetta Corsant. Some died quietly, some tragically, some were never even recognized as gone. But each left behind a story, often more haunting, more human, than the town they helped bring to life. Mayberry lives on in reruns. But these actors deserve more than background applause. They deserve to be seen again, not just as characters, but as people. Backhand index pointing right if stories like this matter to you. Hit subscribe. Because behind every perfect show, there's a hidden history waiting to be told. Anetta Corsant, the schoolteacher who kept her secrets until the end. To viewers, Helen Crump was the perfect match for Andy Taylor, intelligent, composed, a symbol of quiet grace in Mayberry. But the woman behind her, Anetta Corsant, was far more private than the role suggested. And when she passed away, she left behind more questions than answers. Born in Kansas in 1933, Corsant studied acting seriously. She trained under Lee Strasberg and even dropped out of Northwestern to pursue her craft. Before Mayberry, she had starred opposite Steve McQueen in The Blob, a cult sci-fi hit. But the Andy Griffith Show cemented her in pop culture forever. Anetta joined the cast in season 3, and almost instantly, her chemistry with Andy Griffith clicked. On screen, their romance was sweet, slow-burning, believable. Off-screen, whispers of something more. Though never confirmed publicly, many insiders believed Griffith and Corsant had a relationship during the show, and perhaps long after. But she never spoke about it. Not once. Not in interviews. Not even near the end. After the Andy Griffith Show, she reprised her role in Mayberry RFD in the 1986 reunion Return to Mayberry. She also made guest appearances on Matlock, again working with Griffith. But while others from the cast pursued fame, Corsant retreated into character work. Steady, subtle, never headline-chasing. Then, quietly, in 1995, she died of cancer. She was only 62. No big press coverage. No fanfare. Just a short obituary and the quiet exit of a woman who had once been the heart of Mayberry's emotional center. She never married. She had no children. And she never explained much about her life outside the spotlight. Maybe that was the point. Anetta Corsant lived like Helen Crump, reserved, intelligent, fiercely independent. And in the end, she left us exactly as she lived, with grace and without noise. Jack Dodson, the clerk of Mayberry and the bartender of Broadway. He was the quiet civil servant of Mayberry, the kind of man who kept his tie straight and his voice low. As Howard Sprague, Jack Dodson played the epitome of the well-meaning, rule-following bureaucrat. Awkward with women, precise with paperwork, and always one step behind life. But the real Jack Dodson? Far more dynamic and far more tragic. Born in 1931 in Pittsburgh, Dodson wasn't a TV actor by training. He was a Broadway man. Andy Griffith first spotted him in the stage production of Huey and personally brought him into the Andy Griffith Show in 1967. Howard Sprague was supposed to be a minor character, but Dodson made him unforgettable. Behind that stiff, buttoned-up demeanor was a sharp comedic mind. He could time a pause like a punchline and turn mild discomfort into something hilarious. And yet, when Mayberry RFD ended, the roles stopped coming. Dodson drifted into bit parts. An episode of Happy Days here, a role in a Disney movie there. He was never out of work entirely, but he never escaped the shadow of Howard Sprague either. In real life, he was funny, warm, and nothing like the uptight clerk people assumed he was. He also struggled quietly. Dodson was a heavy drinker. Friends described long nights at Broadway bars, cracking jokes with fellow actor Jason Robards, his drinking buddy and lifelong friend. Their camaraderie was famous in New York circles, but it masked deeper struggles with typecasting, health, and aging out of the business. Jack Dodson died of heart failure in 1994 at the age of 63. No major retrospectives, no public tributes, just another face from Mayberry gone. He made us laugh by playing a man who never quite fit in. And in the end, that might have been truer than any of us realized. Paul Hartman, the dancer who died fixing things in Mayberry. To Mayberry fans, he was Emmett Clark, the fix-it man with a gruff voice and a toolbox full of one-liners. But long before he ever stepped into that dusty repair shop, Paul Hartman had danced across Broadway stages and vaudeville halls, a Tony Award winner with rhythm in his bones. Born in 1904 in San Francisco, Hartman was practically raised in show business. His father was an impresario known as the Ziegfeld of the Pacific Coast, and Paul himself was performing by the time he could walk. He and his wife Grace became a ballroom dancing sensation, eventually winning Tonys for the 1948 Broadway revue Angel in the Wings. But Hollywood didn't know what to do with him. After a failed early TV sitcom The Hartmans and the devastating death of his wife in 1955, Paul Hartman slowly transitioned into character roles. Gone were the tap shoes and spotlights. He became the background man, the grumpy neighbor, the barber, the shopkeeper. And then came Emmett. Replacing Floyd the barber after Howard McNear's health declined, Hartman's Emmett brought a new energy to the Andy Griffith Show and its spin-off Mayberry RFD. He was sarcastic, grounded, and deeply human. But unlike others in the cast, he never became a household name. In truth, Hartman was never comfortable with celebrity. He had already lived the big stage life, already known standing ovations. In Mayberry, he found something quieter, and perhaps that suited him more. He died of a heart attack in 1973 at age 69. No headlines, no retrospectives, just a short mention in industry trades and silence. From Broadway legend to Mayberry handyman, Paul Hartman spent his life fixing things. But in the end, no one could fix the fact that he was one of Mayberry's most forgotten treasures. Denver Pyle, the mountain man who carried real scars beneath the beard. To fans of the Andy Griffith Show, he was Briscoe Darling, the gruff, fiddle-playing patriarch of the Darling family, straight out of Appalachian folklore. But Denver Pyle wasn't just playing the part of a rugged mountain man. He was one. Born in Colorado in 1920, Pyle lived a life more raw and real than most Hollywood actors ever dared. Before acting, he was a drummer, a shrimper, an oil field laborer. And then came World War II. Pyle enlisted in the Navy and was wounded in the brutal Battle of Guadalcanal. He came home with scars, some visible, most not, and never talked much about it. After the war, acting found him almost by accident. He trained with top-tier coaches like Michael Chekhov and Maria Ouspensky, and carved out a career as one of TV's go-to Western faces. He played sidekicks, sheriffs, outlaws, always tough, always believable. Briscoe Darling was supposed to be a one-off role, but Pyle brought something magnetic to the screen. Under the shaggy beard and stoic silence was a kind of poetry, a man who didn't say much, but when he did, it landed like scripture. He appeared in only a handful of episodes, yet his impact was lasting. Outside Mayberry, Pyle became even more famous as Uncle Jesse in The Dukes of Hazzard. But behind that booming voice and white beard was a man who lived hard and stayed private. He rarely gave interviews. He didn't chase fame. He invested his money quietly and stayed out of Hollywood drama. In 1997, Denver Pyle died of lung cancer, just 2 weeks after receiving his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Frail, sick, but standing tall, he showed up for the ceremony. It was his last public act. He lived like the men he played, wounded, weathered, but deeply grounded. Denver Pyle didn't need the spotlight. He was the mountain. Howard Morris, the madman of Mayberry who was a genius in disguise. He He threw rocks through windows, screamed like a banshee, and talked in riddles. Ernest T. Bass was chaos personified, a wild, toothy mountain misfit who could turn any quiet Mayberry day into total madness. But behind the lunacy was Howard Morris, a classically trained actor and comedic genius who never got the recognition he truly deserved. Born in New York City in 1919, Morris was no backwoods caricature. He studied Shakespeare. He served in World War II, performing Hamlet and Macbeth for troops with none other than Maurice Evans and Carl Reiner. After the war, he became a regular on Sid Caesar's Your Show of Shows, helping to define the golden age of television sketch comedy. And then came Mayberry. Ernest T. Bass appeared in just 5 episodes, but Morris made him immortal. He was wild but weirdly poetic, annoying yet somehow endearing. He hijacked classroom lessons, army camps, even weddings, and audiences loved it. But few realized the character was built on razor-sharp timing and deep creative control. Morris was the madness, but it was always deliberate. Off-screen, he was more restrained, more serious. A director, a voice actor, a master mimic. He gave life to countless Hanna-Barbera characters, from Adam Ant to Beetle Bailey. He directed episodes of Get Smart, The Dick Van Dyke Show, and even The Andy Griffith Show itself. But to the industry, he was often just that guy with the voice. Howard Morris died in 2005 of heart failure at age 85. There were no primetime specials, no tribute reels, just a short obituary and a legacy that most fans never fully understood. He was a storm wrapped in slapstick, a Shakespearean actor who made a career out of playing lunatics. And in Mayberry, his madness gave the town its most unforgettable visitor. Harley Bear, the mayor who disappeared from the story he helped build. He wore a suit, gave speeches, and tried, often in vain, to control the laid-back rhythm of Sheriff Andy Taylor. As Mayor Roy Stoner, Harley Bear was the bureaucratic buzz in Mayberry's otherwise peaceful home. He was uptight, rule-bound, and never quite in sync with the town he governed. But in real life, Harley Bear was anything but forgettable. Born in Salt Lake City in 1914, Bear was a master of the microphone before he ever stepped in front of a camera. He became famous in the golden age of radio, voicing thousands of characters, including the original Chester on Gunsmoke, years before Dennis Weaver played the role on television. His voice was warm, expressive, and instantly recognizable to a generation raised on static and drama. When television came calling, Bear transitioned smoothly. He was everywhere: Perry Mason, The Addams Family, I Love Lucy, Bewitched. Never the star, always the glue. He appeared in over 200 shows and films, a journeyman actor who made supporting roles feel essential. His stint as Mayor Stoner was short, just 1 season. The character was written out, replaced with a more comedic mayor played by Dick Elliot. And just like that, Bear was gone from Mayberry. No exit, no fanfare, no follow-up. But he kept working. For decades. Commercials, animation, sitcoms, his resume was endless. Yet he never became a household name. Maybe he didn't need to. Maybe he preferred being part of the story, not the headline. Harley Bear died in 2002 at the age of 88 from complications after a stroke. There were no major tributes, no retrospectives, just the quiet passing of a man who had once been the voice of a nation, and then faded out of the frame. He may not have lasted long in Mayberry, but he helped build the world around it. And that, in itself, is legacy. Dick Elliot, the first mayor of Mayberry, who died mid-season. Before Mayberry had rules, it had Mayor Pike. Short, round, and full of bluster, he wasn't the most efficient politician, but he was unforgettable. Played by Dick Elliot, Mayor Pike brought a dose of old-school comedy to the Andy Griffith Show. And then, just as quickly as he arrived, he was gone. Born in 1886 in Salem, Massachusetts, Dick Elliot had one of those faces. The kind that made audiences say, "Oh, it's that guy." He appeared in more than 240 films, almost always as the same type. The talkative judge, the fussy storekeeper, the jolly old man with a secret. Never the lead, always the presence. His body was short, rotund, and instantly memorable. His voice, a nasally, high-pitched murmur with a touch of mischief, made him perfect for playing blowhards and buffoons. But behind the caricature was an actor who understood timing, restraint, and how to command a scene in under 30 seconds. He joined the Andy Griffith Show in its earliest episodes, giving Mayberry a chaotic political figure to balance Andy Taylor's quiet authority. But Elliot didn't stay long. Midway through the show's second season, he passed away of natural causes in December 1961. There was no tribute episode, no storyline about the mayor's departure. In typical TV fashion of the time, the character simply vanished, replaced later by a different mayor, played by Harley Bear. It was as if Mayor Pike had never existed. But for those who remember, he did exist. He brought old vaudeville charm to Mayberry, a reminder that before the TV age smoothed out its edges, comedy came loud, round, and unapologetically weird. Dick Elliot died doing what he always did, showing up, delivering the laugh, then disappearing quietly. He may not have had a big death, but he was one of the first to remind us that Mayberry was never meant to last forever. They weren't always in the spotlight. Some only showed up for a few episodes. Others stood just off to the side, adding texture to a world we thought was perfect. But together, these 13 actors helped build Mayberry, one glance, one gesture, one quiet line at a time. And one by one, they vanished. Some, like Dick Elliot, left mid-season without a goodbye. Others, like Anetta Corsant, chose silence over spectacle. A few battled illness, regret, or simply time itself. Most were never given the recognition they deserved. But all of them gave a part of their lives to create a place that, even today, still feels like home to millions. We remember Mayberry as a gentle town. But behind that illusion were real people with real struggles. People who made us laugh while quietly unraveling off-screen. Their stories are worth more than nostalgia. They're a reminder of what we often miss. That background characters have full lives, that fame doesn't shield from pain, and that legacies aren't always loud. So if this video moved you, if these names meant something, then let them be remembered not just as roles, but as human beings. Backhand Index Pointing Right. Subscribe to Hollywood Everlast for more stories like this. Stories that dig deeper, go darker, and honor the faces behind the fiction. Because Mayberry was never real, but the people who built it were, and they deserve to be seen. Again,